Okay.
There you go.
Okay, good morning. My name is Jimna Miller, and I'm excited to welcome everybody. This is going to be live streamed, and we're using the new Zoom format. So kind of exciting. Everybody is joined together in this format. I'd like to welcome my co-chairs, Yana and Representative Kathy Abercrombie. So I wanted to recognize the two of them. Today is July 20th, 10 a.m., and we're going to get started. By the agenda, do you want me to should I start sharing that? Or should
I think we should have Lisa call the roll.
Do the roll call.
Yep.
Okay. Lisa, if you go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Okay. Jennifer Abeda-Marco. Representative Kathy Abercrombie.
Abercrombie here.
Stephen Byers. Jill Karen. Judy Dowd.
Hi, Lisa. It's Shelley Maines. I'm filling in for Judy Dowd today.
Great. Thanks, Shelley.
Thank you.
And Mike Olson is filling in for Amy Dumont.
Here.
Marcia Eckerd.
Here.
Melissa Gagney. Ann Giannette. Brian Klimkowitz. Julie McKenna. Andrew Camaro. Jim Loomis. Kathy Marchione. Gymnast.
Present.
Krista Ostaszewski. Danielle Pina.
Here.
Yana.
Right here.
Lynn Rickey.
I'm here, thank you.
Colleen Kursky. Lois Rosenwald.
Here.
Carol Ryan Hanlon.
Here.
Carrie Sessu. Doriana.
Here.
And Julie Wolf.
I'm here. I also wanted to mention that my invite had both a Teams link and a Zoom link. I don't know if it's possible. Some people are in a Teams meeting just because there's
point.
I'm happy to jump off and try that Teams link and see if people are on there, if you would like me to do that.
Okay, yeah, originally we had set up as a Teams in advance, but I did go in, update it, so.
Okay, maybe it doesn't work. I didn't try that link, so.
Okay.
But if you'd like me to try it, I can do that.
I
Julie,
did
would
get
you?
notice
Go ahead, Mike.
saying Andrew had started the Teams meeting, so I wasn't sure which one was correct.
Okay, why don't I jump off and I'll go on the Teams and see if anybody's on there and then tell them to come here.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
So why don't we just wait 1 minute and just see if we can get everybody over to here.
Yeah, I see Andrew has joined. I think we may be getting more folks over. New technology,
Yeah.
Newer.
Well, I hope everybody's staying cool today. It's supposed to be a hot one.
Yeah,
It is.
my air conditioner is finally going in today.
Oh my. It's a good day to be at work.
Mm.
Yeah, even my dog looked at me this morning and said, "Are you kidding?"
Lisa, can you add Brian from SDE and Ash and Andrew to the attendance sheet, please?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Me
Thank
and
you.
Amy were
I
in the
get that.
wrong room wondering where is everyone? Oh, we're just gonna catch up. So, and then yeah.
Andrew, was there anyone else in there with you?
Amy and other case manager or two who are newer, who Lisa was in, or who Amy was introducing me to. So like 4 people.
Okay.
Amy
they should
James
be
would know.
coming
I
up.
didn't know their name. Amy was just introducing me. They're just newer case managers. So like 4, I think. We were like,
Okay.
where is everyone?
All right. Thank you.
Here we go.
Why don't we get started so that we can keep everybody on track, because we appreciate everybody's time.
Okay, I'm going to get started. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes that had been circulated.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do I have a
Okay.
second?
Second.
Okay, they're approved.
So just at this point, I just want to make one adjustment on the minutes before we say yay or nay. In one of the sections, it talked about having the agenda out a month before our meeting. I think the intent was to have any subject matter to the chairs of this council a month before, to give DSS or any of the agencies the opportunity to be able to respond at that meeting, or to let us know that they would need more time to collect the data and they might have to be on a future meeting. So just for clarification, the intent was just to have the agenda kind of set a month before, but not distributed at that time. So I just don't want anybody to misunderstand and feel that they're going to get agenda a month before. Is that clear to everyone, or does anyone have any questions?
Kathy, this is Oriana. I think too, one of the things we talked about is that at the meeting itself, we would be identifying agenda items for the next meeting too, so that we had an idea of what would be discussed and would have plenty of time to prep.
Yes, you're absolutely right. But we also wanted to give individuals the opportunity that so sometimes we walk away from these meetings and we're like, oh, we should have asked to have that on the agenda. So we wanted to give everyone the opportunity to be able to send us a note saying, hey, do you think we could add this to the agenda? But we need to have a clear timeline on that, because we really need to give the agencies who are so short-handed the opportunity to be able to respond. So you're absolutely right. Our hope is at the end of every council meeting, we will have an idea on the agenda for the next meeting, but also we always want to give people the opportunity at a later point to request something to be on the agenda, because things can change in a really short period of time. So say something comes up through CMS that we didn't know at our last meeting, right? We shouldn't have to wait 3 meetings down the road to be able to put that on the agenda. So we want to give people the opportunity to be able to, send a notice about that. And that's why we thought that a month before would be a clear timeline. So you're absolutely right. We want to make sure that our agendas are clear going forward. Is that acceptable to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, so Lisa, if you could just amend or make that portion a little clearer for the next meeting, that would be great.
Kathy, can I just, I'm sorry to, I second the motion for the minutes, but then I realized, particularly given today's attendance, I think, somebody else on the committee, please tell me if I'm recalling this, because I know we've talked about it in other meetings. I thought we also had discussed, and I didn't see it reflected, the attendance requirements for the meeting, which I think are, pretty clearly stated up front. And we continue to have, I believe, one individual who's not yet attended a meeting. And I think we're in the second year of their appointment. So I think we talked about just the importance of having people on the council who are actively participating. We know people are not going to make every meeting. I think that's unrealistic, but I think we do have one individual who's not made a meeting yet. So does anybody else remember that, or is that just rolling around in my head?
This is Lois. I remember that, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's really important. We just continue to have some people that are just not making meetings. And I think this is particularly important when it comes to families. We need families on this council that are committed. Some of us have been on this council for a very long time, and we'll continue as long as we can, but we need families who are going to commit to this. And so I'm not going to just reiterate everything you said, Lynn, but I'm in agreement.
So Lynn, so I apologize. I don't remember. There was a lot that we talked about at the last meeting, and I think that we tried to take really good notes on that. And Gemma and I did meet twice already to kind of talk about that. I apologize. I don't remember that conversation. So what I would propose is for Gemma, I, and Yana to have the opportunity to look at the attendance over the last few meetings. And then if it's okay with the council, what we would do is we will send an email to individuals that have not participated to what the requirement is under our bylaws. Perfect. And ask them if, we understand that time is not everybody's friend. And if they feel that their time to step off the council, we would have no problem with that. I will tell you that we are starting to get families, which I'm thrilled about, who want to be participants. We have currently 2 resumes that I have asked Lisa to put a folder together on. So it's not like we're lacking participation if we need to. So if it's okay with this body, we'll take a look at the attendance. We will send an email to them to request what their desire is. And then we will make sure that the whole council is aware of that for the next meeting, if that's acceptable to everyone.
That's excellent. Thank you.
And I thought that Jill Karen had sent in an email at one of the meetings. They said she was no longer able to participate. Is that, Lisa, do you remember anything about that?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, I believe she did as well.
Yeah, I think she's signed.
Okay, so Lisa, can you just send Yana, Gemma, and I just after this meeting, just a quick email with her name and what position she held? Like, was she a parent rep? So that we know how we can backfill that position.
Yes, she is a parent with a child. Yep. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. So we'll meet and go over that. So other than that, if you want to entertain a motion, we have a motion on the table to accept it. All those in favor of accepting the minutes with the caveat of just clarifying the 1 month before, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Seeing none, the motion carries. The minutes are accepted.
Hi, this is Danielle Pina. I was just curious, do we have enough on the council to vote? I know that's stipulated as well.
So there's 27 there's 27 on here right now.
Yeah,
And
there's
the
only a few
council-
missing.
Yeah, they were over, just so you know, they were over. There was a little mix up between the Zoom and the webinar. So they were over in the other Zoom. I think I'm looking at the screen. Chris Ashashevsky is here, who was over there. Brian's over here. Adam's over here. Andrew's over here. Stephen, I think we have a quorum. Yes.
Great.
And Jennifer.
And Jennifer, yes. Thank you, Jennifer.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hi, everyone. Apologies for my tardiness. I was in the wrong meeting.
Nope, no apologies. We're just glad you're here, Krista. Nice to see you again. So moving on.
Okay, I think at this time on the agenda, we are open for public comment. We do have some folks, I think, that had been extended invitation based on their interest for a public comment. We are asking public comments to be limited to 3 minutes each. And I believe, Lisa, will it be you that can unmute folks or give folks the opportunity to go ahead and speak? Should we go one by one?
I'm not sure on this format.
Okay.
Because this is the first time doing this, so I'm not. I didn't set this up, but I can try.
Okay.
So I don't think Cass.
Yep.
I don't think we had anyone that signed up for public comment. Cass, do you see anybody that was trying to come in for public comment?
I'm not sure. I didn't get any emails regarding it. So, but people are able to unmute themselves as well if there is anybody that we missed on here.
Okay, that's great. Shall we move on to our next agenda item?
Yes.
Next on the agenda is Jennifer Crom providing the Beacon State Plan update.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm just putting my screen into presentation mode. Give me 1 second.
Jennifer, while you're doing that, just by a way of this new format, what I'd really like for all of us to try and do, and I've talked to Kathy about this, as we go through these presentations and these topics on the agenda, you will have the capability of raising your hand using your profile in terms, and then we can kind of go round robin as to the questions that do come through or your comments. We want to try and keep it a little bit more orderly, and try and avoid using the chat function, because then we miss them and we do want to hear from everybody. So I know that's a little bit different, and I'm sure all of us will try our hardest, but we don't want to have a lot of crosstalk. So I just wanted to put that into the room, and I appreciate everyone trying to adhere to that. Sorry, go ahead, Jennifer.
It's okay, Jim, but to that point, while I'm in presentation mode, I can't necessarily see all the hands that are being raised. So if you could just call people out and call my attention to it, I'd appreciate it.
All right, I'll do my best.
Thank you. So this is our July update of the Medicaid funded services for individuals with autism. Let me see here. Here we go. So as we've seen over the past several years that we've been in existence, our services continue to increase in authorizations across the board. Most notably, our group treatment services have started to increase in authorization post-COVID, as a lot of our providers have recognized the need to help reintegrate individuals with autism into group settings. So a lot of those group services still remain being within groups of individuals who are either in school together or might be related and exposed to each other in other ways and other formats. And they work to help generalize those social skills for individuals with autism. It's also important to note on this screen, I remind people of this every time I present this information, the treatment plan and development and program book development, the green line, is the highest number of authorizations, as providers have access to that authorization throughout the treatment of an individual. So if behaviors change or new behaviors arise, providers have the opportunity to request a new treatment plan development and program book development in order to make modifications to that plan as behaviors change. Here we see a breakdown of our current open authorizations. So as of July 1st, we're up to 435 diagnostic evaluations. So those are individuals who are currently authorized for that service and receiving that service. We have 3,943 individuals who are actively receiving the direct service delivery, either in the home setting or in center-based services. And then, as noted before, the group intervention is up to 111 individuals who are receiving services through group treatment. It's also important to recognize that there might be a crossover of individuals who are also receiving the direct service delivery on a one-to-one basis and also can access the group treatment services. So there might be individuals in both of those buckets of service delivery. Any questions on that?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So here we look at our age of individuals who are admitting into services, or so the age at which they receive their first authorization for autism services. These numbers continue to stay pretty steady, with our 3-year-olds at the highest number of individuals accessing those services, which we love to see. It shows a really smooth transition from birth to 3 services over to the Medicaid funded services. And that does decrease a little bit over time throughout their age, with another increase at the 7-year-old age range, typically when school demands, academic demands start to increase a little bit at that time. We are servicing, and just to call out, we do have some individuals under 3, and that still continues to happen as some of our birth to 3 providers are still experiencing either staffing problems, or members just require more support than the birth to 3 structure is able to provide. So when they are receiving the behavioral services through Medicaid, when they're also in birth to 3, they still have access to all of their other birth to 3 services. So if there's OT, PT, speech, they're still receiving all of those services through birth to 3, and they're only receiving the BCBA or ABA services through the Medicaid insurance structure. Here we look at our demographics of individuals, and this is another area that remains pretty steady, with the unknown bucket being the highest percentage of individuals accessing services. For those of you who don't know, when becoming eligible for Medicaid, individuals have the option to indicate other as their race or ethnicity, and that then comes through to us in data form as unknown. So that continues to be the highest bucket at 31%. Hispanic at 27.5%, white at 25%, Black at 11.5%, and then we have a few others that are a much lower number. We also show our individuals who may be DCF involved or receiving Beacon voluntary services through the Child and Family Division at Beacon. That's only about 0.2% of the individuals who are Beacon involved. And when we do have those individuals who are either involved with DCF or Beacon voluntary services, we have ongoing collaboration meetings so that all parties are working together to support that child and family. The majority of our individuals at 93% are not DCF involved or receiving Beacon voluntary services. So the majority are just within our care coordination program for the ASD team or the Medicaid funded services. Regions 4 and 5 continue to be the highest number of individuals. DCF regions 4 and 5 continue to be the highest area of the state accessing services. It is also the areas of the state where we have the highest number of providers. So while we are more saturated in individuals in those areas of the state, we do also have more providers in that area of the state.
Can you clarify what region
Yeah, so DCF Region 4 is the Hartford Manchester office, and Region 5 is the Torrington Litchfield kind of area. So here we look at our provider enrollment, which is so super exciting. I know Representative Abercrombie, you probably remember the days when we had 5 or 6 providers, and it was so painful to report this every month. But we're up to 797 providers who are able to oversee the direct service delivery. So that is our BCBAs and our licensed clinicians. We also have another 47 providers who are in the enrollment process right now. So it's really exciting to be able to see this continuous growth in our individual providers. This does not capture the number of behavior technicians that each agency has. This is only the qualified enrolled healthcare providers. So several agencies have several behavior technicians working under a BCBA or a licensed clinician. You could see to the right, our largest number of agency types are the ones that are made up predominantly of board certified behavior analysts. And then we have other groups that are a combination of either BCBAs and licensed clinicians. So we break that down into LCSW groups or LPC groups or LMFT groups. And then we also have 7 clinics who are enrolled. So for the clinics, we don't count the individual providers. They're counted as a sole clinic agency. I know, Dr. Loomis, you have in past months asked about wait lists of our providers. We continue to outreach to our providers on a weekly basis. So our providers do let us know where they're at, if they're looking for new referrals, if their wait lists are exceeding a month or more. We have our BCBA at Beacon, Erica Gittleman, who's our provider network developer, reaches out to providers on a weekly basis to learn that information. We don't have that data to present. We collect that in an anecdotal report out directly from the providers to our care coordination team so that then we can make appropriate referrals based on what we know. I do see one hand raised. I don't know who that's for though. It's ILC. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I just have a question. So is there a mechanism for example, if we have a BCBA who's gone through the qualifying process through Beacon and then they leave and go to another agency, they're still counted as a provider. And if they enroll with another agency, then potentially they're counted as a provider for them. So they could be counted twice. Is there a mechanism to make sure that the numbers are actually representing who can provide the services?
Yep. So the individual name is only registered or counted in this count once. So we have BCBAs who might be with 5 different agencies. They're only counted once as that one person.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Any other questions?
I don't see any.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not finding my question.
Oh, go ahead.
I think that's great that you're talking to the clinicians about it, but I'm surprised. I mean, why aren't we collecting data on that? That seems like just a key indicator. I mean, the numbers, having seen these reports, which are always very complete and very well presented over the months and years, that's great. We're really, making progress as far as providers and everything. I mean, it just looks great. But the questions really are, how long are people waiting for services? What are the quality of services? Are people happy? Are we getting any feedback from patients? Are we getting any outcomes, clinical outcomes? I mean, how many goals are being reached? What kinds of gains are we seeing? Is there any data addressing those things?
Yeah, so it's a great question, Jim. So the way we pull all of this data that Beacon presents is through our Care Connect system. So it's based on authorizations and claims because that's the most accurate way for us to be able to report data. Wait times are not captured in there in any form of an authorization or a claim. We do have, so within the Beacon system, which we don't make as a public report, but what we report out directly to our state partners, so DSS and DCF and DMIS, we are able to gather when a flag opens in our system. So our flag indicates that it's our first contact either with a care coordinator or a clinician at Beacon to the first date of an authorization. So we're able to measure that wait time, but that's not the wait time of a child waiting on a provider's wait list. So because there's no mechanism in our system to be able to gather that, what we're working on right now, I actually just met with our state partners yesterday to discuss exactly the two things that you're bringing up, Jim. So how we can work with our providers to gather that data in a uniform, standardized way. And as BCBAs, they are data gurus. They love gathering data. So I don't think it'll be a problem getting their buy-in, but we just have to be able to present it to them in a standardized format. So they're all gathering information in the same way. And we also discussed yesterday how to start measuring outcome. So how many goals children are reaching, if they're moving from decreasing, interfering behaviors to a skills acquisition. Are the hours staying the same, but they're actually working on building skills versus decreasing behaviors that might get them into the emergency room? So we're looking at a few different ways that we can gather that data. And again, that would be through our providers gathering that information and then either reporting that out either to Beacon or to DSS. So we are having those conversations. And our next meeting, we're bringing in the Beacon data folks, since they speak a totally different language than I do in their data system, but to be able to see how we can use our existing system to be able to gather that data and build crosswalks to keep that information standardized. So yeah, we recognize the importance of that.
When do you think you would have, that data would start coming in? I mean, in other words, I understand you're working with a set data system. It's very hard. It's really hard to get it out. But it just seems like with the amount of resources we're talking about, that without knowing outcomes, it's really kind of foolish. When do you anticipate that you would begin to collect that data? Or
So
and again, it doesn't have to be perfect data, but we should know something about it,
Yeah. So the state partners, myself and our data team will be meeting in August to start discussing how that can be built out and what in our system already exists. It is a larger process than it seems like in the system. So I don't have a timeline, Jim.
All right, I guess what I would say if Kathy Abercrombie or something, I mean, if we could put it on the agenda, that this is kind of an important issue, I think, for all the programs, is that we really just don't have outcome data of any sort. And maybe that's something that we could bring up at a future meeting as far as looking at the waiver, looking at this as to sort of, what's happening? How are people getting better? I'm sure that the outcomes look good, but unless we're looking at them, we just don't know what's working, what's not working. We don't know where these resources are getting us.
Yeah.
And so let me just add to that, Jim. So the new Medicaid director, Guy Wilston, this is his field of expertise, is data. The timing is absolutely perfect because in the Medicaid world, DSS right now is looking at a totally new structure about collecting data for all of their programs. So I would assume that that's going to include working with our partners, which is Beacon, especially around this population because of the Medicaid waiver. So to answer your question, I think yes, it's something being talked about. Yes, it's something that they're looking at to design. But I think that where the challenge always lies, and I know it sounds simple, but what I've learned through the years, it's not, is building these networks are really challenging. And even in the DSS world where, we've been adjusting and building on our system in DSS for over 10 years, they've been rebuilding it. It still takes a lot to add a new component to it. So just to add to what Jen's saying, yes, it's important. Yes, everybody's going to do it. But if we think that it's going to be done tomorrow, sadly, that's not going to be the case.
Yeah.
But I think that the future will show that it will get done.
Could we have that person you mentioned before come to a meeting and address us on this issue?
I think it's premature to do it right now because a guy has only been on the job 2 months now, so he is just getting his Sorry, I look at his name and I always say it wrong. It's Guy Wilston. So he is just in the beginning stages. We, as a legislative body, have just started meeting with him. So I think it would be a little premature. But what I can offer is, as they start to build these networks, I think it would give this council the opportunity to be able to weigh in on what should be collected and how that should be done. So I can offer that to you at this point.
So how would we proceed with that? I think that's a great idea.
Well, as soon as Guy, our Medicaid director, starts to build these networks, right now they're in the early stages of having the conversations with our partners like Beacon to say, you know, what do we need to collect? How do we collect it? And then how do we add it to the system that we have? As soon as we know what stage they're at, and Jen will keep us posted because we've decided to keep her as a continuous agenda item for this council. She'll let us know, hey, you know, we met with DSS in you know, August, and we're meeting with them again with them in September, and we should have more information by October. You know, Jen will be able to help us follow that timeline. And then in the reverse world, which is me as still chair of human services, I'm meeting with Guy, you know, separately on the legislative point, like, okay, where are we with this? Where are we with that? So you're going to get that information from both. So as I get it, I will present it to the council. And then when we think time is right for him to come and have a conversation about that network, I know he would be more than happy to participate with us.
Okay,
I'm sorry. I too am looking for my raise hand button. I can clap, but I can't raise my hand. Just to comment on that, I think it's a good point. And I know that when we got funding from the state early on for our autism program at the hospital, and this is speaking as a provider, we were required to come up with metrics and to report on those quarterly, ironically to Beacon. So we are reporting our outcomes and have been since the inception of our program now almost 10 years ago. But also what we're required to do, and I think it is very difficult, and believe me, we do not have sophisticated data systems here. You know, we're not a mega system that has, you know, a 35-person department in data, but we had to find a way to report this information as part of being a patient-centered specialty practice nationally. So there are ways to do it, and I'm sure it's a little more, it is always more complex than we think, but I do think it's a good point, Jim, that we should know we have to, for example, report on our wait times, and you know, they don't move. It doesn't necessarily move the needle quickly. And we also have to report on our family satisfaction with our program, and also what goals we're meeting and the sustainability of those goals. So I think it would be really valuable information. I'm glad we're looking at it.
Doriana and Lois, oh, go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
No, I would support Lynn's comment and you know, salute that you guys for doing that. But it's just because otherwise we just don't know. And to be fair, Kathy, I mean, these programs are not 2 years old. I mean, both the state plan and the waiver have been with us for quite a while. And I don't know if Medicaid is pushing for outcomes now or what, but the point is that this is, you know, it's something we should be keeping our eyes on and develop as soon as possible.
Agreed.
Doriana and Lois, I do see your hands raised. I just wanted to answer the other part of Jim's question about member experience in surveys. So we do already have a mechanism in place that our clinical liaisons at Beacon reach out to families within the first 45 days of being connected to a provider to determine if all of their needs have been met in connecting with that provider and their satisfaction with being connected to that provider. My team lead then also reaches out to the family again at the 60-day mark to see if they're making progress and feeling confident in the plan that was developed and the implementation of having that provider in their home. So we are reaching out to families on a regular basis to confirm their satisfaction. And it's also a checkpoint for us to make sure that other needs beyond just autism are being met. So if housing was at risk all of a sudden or something like that, we're also able to measure that as well.
Yeah, I think Doriana's hand has been up first and then Lois. Doriana, you're on mute. There you go.
Thank you.
Doriana.
I was wondering too, I like the fact that you have it broken down by the type of provider they are. But if there's any way, in addition to getting that, you know, how effective it is, like what they're doing too. And maybe by seeing how effective they are, we can discover what these social workers are doing, you know, how much of this is working on social skills or just to kind of, it's so vague. You've got PhDs out there, but what are they doing? It would be good to kind of know as well, what we're paying them to do and how effective it is?
Yep, so I can answer that for you. So the BCBAs are the only individuals that cannot also provide the diagnostic evaluation. So the majority of our social workers and LPCs and LMFTs are also able to function in the same way that a BCBA does in the home, overseeing the direct services of an individual with autism in their behavior plan, conducting that functional behavior assessment, and implementing the behavior intervention plan. Through the qualification process, they need to demonstrate that they are working within their scope and are able to work with individuals with autism, so they have further training beyond just social work or professional counselor. So they have further training in working with individuals with autism.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Lois, I think you're next.
Yes. I just think it's important to keep in mind that when this is put together, that this council really is an excellent resource for the information we should be looking for. So I think, having this gentleman come sooner than later is just something to keep in mind.
Great comment, and I think Representative Abercrombie and Jennifer will both be able to keep us apprised. But I would agree. I'm a parent, and I'd like to have some insight to that too, Lois. So I agree.
Yeah, so Beacon will continue. We have regularly scheduled monthly meetings, Beacon with our state partners who are, specific to supporting the autism program. And I know that they're also speaking with the commissioner as well. So I will bring all of that back to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have the discussion of nominations for open positions on the council. This one we have listed is for a physician who treats or diagnoses a person with autism. I think, Kathy, do you have any other comments before we bring this discussion up?
Just, did everybody get an opportunity to take a look at the two resumes? Shake yes or no.
No.
I'm sorry, I missed those. When were they sent? My apology.
Yes, same here.
I thought that Lisa sent out the resumes with the agenda. Lisa?
Okay. I'm unclear if those are in there. I didn't know if we wanted those like open to the public.
Well, this council isn't the public. I thought that the council needs to see the resumes to decide which individual we're going to ask to join.
But like for the invite that I was told to send, it's the calendar invite that is sent to the council. But I'm happy to send those to the members.
Okay, so, okay.
Can we get a little background maybe at least on the folks? It's exciting to hear we have interest.
Or can we just send them out now? We can look at them.
Yeah, why don't we do this? And I don't know if Lisa, and I apologize, poor Lisa is on vacation. So we really want to just say thank you to her that she's here with us today, giving up her free time with her family, which I know is so precious. Lisa, is it possible for you to send those resumes to the members now of the council?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to go in because I just have one screen here. Like typically I have two screens, but I'm gonna try to see if I can get off of this and do that.
Can I, Kathy?
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Jim.
I'm in the past, this has not been the process where we would discuss candidates in a group of 30 people. It just seems kind of unwieldy and not effective. Rather, the resumes would be reviewed by a membership committee or nominations committee, and then they would be brought to the council at large. I'm not sure, with 30 of us or 27 of us or whatever, it just seems like it's going to be hard to look at a bunch of resumes, unless these have been reviewed by the executive committee and are now being brought just for approval. But as far as kind of a cold discussion of it, I'm not sure with 27 people that makes sense.
So is it the will of this body that you want a subcommittee to look at those resumes? I personally think just looking at the resumes is fine, and this body deciding, you know, which candidate they want part of this board is fine. But if this committee would like to have a subcommittee, you know, speak now, and then we will ask who wants to be on that subcommittee, and we will get that set up.
I guess part of my point is that in this body, if I have a concern about somebody, I'm not going to want to be voicing concerns in front of 30 people, you know, when it puts people in an uncomfortable position. I'm sorry.
I agree with Jim.
Yeah, but maybe we need to be more open. We're talking about 2 people, right, Kathy?
Yes.
And I think sometimes when we already have 2, we've narrowed it down to 2. I think we can handle 2, Jim.
Again, I think the membership is important, and we should be kind of carefully considering background. We all should be coming, you know, the nominating committee would be saying, here's who we need to recruit. Why aren't we out there bringing in people with talents, these certain talents that we need? So that would just be my concern. But
so why don't we do this? I think that there's a motion on the floor to have a subcommittee look at the 2 physicians who would like to be part of this council. All those in favor of putting together a nomination committee, please unmute yourself and say aye.
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 Any opposed?
We have 2. I'm opposed. I think we can move on.
Yeah, I agree. I think that for the committee to make the decision, you know, unilaterally and not present it, not share it with us. I mean, if it's emailed, it's only 2 people, we can look at them. And if somebody wants to send something back by email so that Lisa can just say there are objections and we need a committee to look at this.
Especially when we're down to 2. It seems very transparent to do it for the whole group with 2. We're not talking about 10.
Lynn, Ricky?
Yeah, just a suggestion. I mean, I don't know that I think we need a committee, but I think that, and I certainly understand Lisa's on vacation. We don't need to make her crazy, but I think having him in advance so that we have a moment to, you know, sort of process him. And then I like Doriana's thought, which is that if you have any concerns, you know, somebody says, holy cow, I know that person, I would not recommend them, but you want to be more discreet about it, then you could reach out to, you know, one of the chairs and just give us a little time to process instead of popping them up on a screen and making a very quick decision. But that's just my thought.
So it looks like at this point we have probably the majority of the membership would like to have a subcommittee. I, as a chair, am not going to take a vote on this because I believe that my role as a co-chair is to represent the will of this body. So I think if Gemma and Yana are in favor of it, I think that we are going to have a subcommittee who will look at those 2 resumes. And then in our September meeting, we'll bring back the recommendation of the person to put forward. What I would like to do also is have Lisa send out their resumes when she gets a chance. And then if anyone that is not part of the subcommittee has some suggestions, we will decide on a chairperson and they can send their comments to that person. So if that's okay with everyone, why don't we proceed in that direction? Seeing no other comments, if you would raise your hand, if you would like to be part of the subcommittee, that would be great.
Does everybody know how to use their...
I was just going to say the same thing. Just wave if you can't raise your hand. So we have Jim, we have Lois.
Lynn.
Come on.
Lynn.
Okay, I have 3.
Come on, folks.
So I will volunteer as one of the co-chairs to also be part of it. We have Carol that just raised her hand.
How many would it be ideal for this subcommittee?
I would say 5 would be good, which we're up to 5 if you count me. But that doesn't mean we're not open to anyone else that's interested.
I'm happy to do it. Yeah, I'm happy to do it as well.
Okay, thank you, Julie. So what we'll do is after this meeting, I will have Cass, who is my aide. Her last name is Fruin. We'll send a invite with some dates and times to have that meeting. I want to have this decided by the September meeting. So if everybody could, try to accommodate the schedule, that would be great. I don't feel we'll probably need more than one meeting, but if we do, we can do that. That's not a big deal. But Cass will send out a calendar invite, and then from there, we will have the conversation, and then we will be able to present to this body for a vote at the September meeting. Does that sound good to everyone?
Yeah.
It does, Kathy, thank you. But the other point I think is after you email people that aren't attending, we may come up with other openings, right? And that would be something else that a nominating committee could then say, okay, we need to recruit people for these openings.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have that. I don't think we'll have that all wrapped up by September. We will try, but being that it's summertime, Jim, people aren't always on their emails. So it might be a little bit more time consuming than we think. We will try, but I will tell you that we do have 2 resumes already for family members. Right. So it's not like we don't have people that want to participate, which is a better position than I think we've been in the past. But if we can get it done in a timely manner, then yes, we could add that to the agenda also. Okay. All right. So moving on from that, if there are no other questions or comments, then we will go on to the waiver update. And I think, Mike, you're here from DSS on the waiver update. And just to be clear, Mike, we're talking about the 50 slots from the 2021 fiscal year. We're not talking about the 100 slots that were done in this budget because that only went into effect July 1st.
Okay. We currently have 166 people on the waiver. 46 people from the 50 have been added to the waiver. We are working with the last 4 through their Medicaid eligibility to get them added so that we will have the 50 people all added. We were able to fill one of the vacant case manager positions, and we're waiting for approval to fill the other one. We did get approval to post the 3 new case manager positions. We've also been approved. They're going to add a nurse consultant to assist with the waiver as well.
And there are 1,979 individuals on the wait list as well.
The waiver renewal is moving forward. I believe it's going to be posted. The intent to renew the waiver is going to be posted today. There are some changes that are going to be made to the waiver, not all of the changes we had hoped for. We're going to be able to add nutrition services to the waiver. Nutrition is something that isn't covered under the Medicaid plan. We're going to be amending some of the services for social skills, life skills, and clinical behavior support so that those can continue in a virtual setting as well as in person. And they're looking to amend the qualifications for life skills coaches, getting rid of the 4-year degree requirement, which should hopefully help with some of the staffing shortages we're having all over. So hopefully that will move things forward.
We do have a question from Marsha. I just want to pause if it's okay, Mike.
Yeah, I'm just curious, given that we have 1,900 plus people on the wait list. Is there any time frame that we can guess as to how long that is? I mean, at the rate that people are coming on, or that, we see things moving? I mean, are we, if we are adding somebody to the wait list now, what might they be looking at?
Unless there's legislative approval for like this large group of 50 or the 150 in the next budget, we're adding like 10 people a year in addition to some of the reserve capacity. So you're looking at a 20-year wait probably for somebody going on today. And unfortunately, I mean, that's the constraint that we have budgetarily right now.
Yeah, so let me just say this, I've been on this council for 16 years now, and we haven't had movement in the past, right? And we all know why, because we have had 10 years of deficits as a state. And yes, I agree, people shouldn't have to be on this wait list. But having said that, I'm very proud of the fact that we are able to finally move 150 people off the wait list. Having said that, it's hard to predict what the future budgets are going to look like, right? None of us have a crystal ball. My hope is in the future budgets, and this is where this body can be very helpful. We haven't talked about this yet, but this body has the opportunity to come up with legislative agendas, right? And to kind of decide on putting forward some initiatives in the next legislative session. And you may decide that the legislative agenda that you want to put forward is that you move another 50 people off the wait list. That's how it gets done. This isn't going to be brought forward by the agencies, and I'm not speaking disrespectfully to DSS or any of my human services agencies. This is something that really has to come from the legislators because they're the ones that have to be able to carry the water in the budget. So that's how it works, folks. So hopefully, if you decide, and this is going to be something we're going to talk about under new business, but if you decide that this is important for the next legislative session, then that will be something that will be introduced. I do want to, one of my colleagues who I'm hopeful will be taking my place on this council come January, and we all have to wait until after the November election to see who wins, because nothing is a given. I would like to invite her to the October meeting just for you to kind of put a face with the name. And then after the election, if she wins, which I'm very optimistic she will, then she will come on, but we can give the legislation to her to carry come January, because as you all know, I'm retiring. So that's kind of how it works.
I do see Carol's hand up first, and then Yana had a comment.
So I know we've talked about this a number of times, and I just want to bring it up again. And we've got the individuals that are on the waiver. There are a number of them, and I know this to be a fact because I work with some of them, that are underutilizing or refusing services, and they're taking up a whole slot of somebody. And we've just gotten referrals from some new people coming on who were part of that 50. And these are really needy guys who have been sitting home for a decade. And now we have I have other people that I'm working with that really just don't participate in the services at all. And I just wanted to bring that up, that it's just a concern for me.
And it's something that we've looked at. Right now, the only requirement is that the individuals use one service per month. It was a suggestion from OPM for them to work with CMS Technical about maybe a different waiver for people that have fewer needs or don't want to use as many type of support. So maybe a waiver that had a much smaller cap so that we could free up some of the spots for the people that have more needs, or have like a 2-tiered type of thing, or see what other options are out there so that we could serve more people with the resources that we have, because not everyone is using their cap, like Carol said, or close to it.
Right. I do have people that are getting 1 hour a month. or,
Right.
or 1 hour a week. And they're using up a whole slot for somebody who could benefit from some significant services. So I would like us as a council to kind of look at, is there a way to, make a change to that? Because it really is a lot of people sitting home with nothing and other people who are not getting anything. So that's just my soapbox. Sorry, I'll stop.
So Mike, no, Carol, you raise a really good point. So Mike, the question is, I know under the brain injury waiver, there's flexibility within the plans for the individuals. And I know that it allows us to have like carryover dollars so that we're able to service other individuals. So are you saying that in this particular waiver that it's very scriptive, that the full amount of the dollars has to follow each person, and that you can't, even if they only do one service, right, those dollars are still connected to that person, and that's why we can't take and put somebody else on the waiver who may need less services?
That's exactly correct. We have to leave that $50,000 allocation per person the way things are currently written.
And so you're saying also, and I just for clarification, and I think there is somebody on here, I think it was Shelley from OPM.
Yes. Yes, I wanted to add something.
Okay, go ahead, Shell.
Is that okay? Yeah, I just wanted to chime in a little bit. We are working with Amy right now and Jennifer on the waiver renewal. And I will talk to Mike some more on that because some of the decisions are up to DSS. But as far as our end goes, we're doing our best to increase the unduplicated counts and allow for the additional people, account for maybe 25% or something that are not utilizing their service or using their dollars so that we can provide more services to more individuals and still remain in the allotted, dollar amount that we're giving.
So Shelley, would we have to apply? So would we come up with a new waiver that would be scriptive to those individuals, or would we amend? You're already in the process of a renewal for this waiver. Are you adding a section to it that amends it to allow for individuals who have less services?
Mike probably knows more about that at this moment. I'll talk to Amy about that. I think what we're doing is we're trying to get this renewal in because it is due. We have to get it posted to at least allow under the count. I don't think based on the waiver that we have to hold slots up to the cap, the 50,000. So we're trying to give enough room for the count of slots in this waiver. And then we'll work on budgeting and how to move forward to get as many people on as we can with this waiver. And then as Mike said, there are conversations ongoing for additional waivers, to address the other issues he was talking about, which might, possibly free up some more slots for people underutilizing.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Shelley.
Okay,
thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Yana, I think you had your hand up next, and then Lois.
Well, I just wanted to comment. Number one, what we just talked about with the wait list and with the people who aren't underusing hours. I was one of those individuals up until the last month. That wasn't because I was slacking or I didn't care. It was because we didn't have staffing up until about a month ago when we finally got an agency on board. So right now, because we have a lot of staffing shortages, we have people who are not using their budget because they're not able to get a staff. So I want to, before we do anything drastic, just to hold off on doing anything drastic. And then secondly, we really do need to do better with this wait list, because what if we have individuals who are getting older, like in their 40s and 50s, mom and dad, they're not there anymore, and they don't have a big family support network. And what then? Oh, sorry, you have to be on the wait list for another 20 years. What then? Are they out of luck or what? Because I worry about facing a crisis, and then we're already in that mode. The parents don't know what to do, and the individuals are worried. What happens to me?
And I think to address some of what you just said, Yana, so what we could do is we can look at people have an allocation for their budget. And if they're not utilizing it because they're going through a tough time or there isn't support staff or things like that, we can keep that. So if we look at what the allocation is versus the utilization, where we move funds around, then that should help cover people, because it is the utilization is down because of staffing, the utilization is down because of COVID. And then there are other people that just aren't using services or don't want a lot and just want simple things. So if we can move that money around, that would be ideal.
Yeah, that would be perfect if we had the flexibility. And I want to, by the way, applaud the council for allowing the virtual services to keep going, because I'm one of the individuals that uses a virtual social skills group, and it really makes a difference. And to be able to have a group that I like, that's run by somebody that I know, my therapist that I work with on an individual basis runs the social skills group that I go to. And it's working better for me than the in-person group. I actually get more benefit out of it. And I wouldn't be able to attend the group if it went to in-person because it's an Enfield. So I'm glad that they're taking that into account.
And
At the same time, I have a friend who's also on the waiver who doesn't like the virtual groups. So if we could keep both options open, then that would be amazing, because we do miss a lot of body language and a lot of opportunities to interact with the virtual group. So if we could keep both options going, that would be the best. Lois, I see your hand up.
That's great feedback, Yana. Go ahead, Lois.
Yeah, I agree with a number of things that have just been shared by Mike and Yana. A lot of the underutilization right now has to do with COVID. Also, I think what's important to keep in mind is for some of those folks who appear to be not using the services that they are using are vital for them to really keep functioning. Some of those folks that's all they need to be able to work, to be able to socialize. So I think, it's really important to be able to look at individual by individual. And I think a two-tier, possibly a three-tier, waiver situation is really what we need. Thanks.
And DDS has a similar type setup with their waivers. There's one that goes up to 50,000 and one that's for above that. And if we can look at something like that, or just go by people's, like I said, their allocation versus their utilization, there's ways that it can be looked at so that we could serve more people. But no, and Lois said that there are some people, I have some people, they get 1 hour a week of life skills. It is imperative they get that 1 hour a week, but that's need.
Exactly.
So Mike, this is Krista from DDS. I wanted to chime in very quickly, and I appreciate you mentioning the DDS waiver. So our waiver system does allow for some flexibility. Each of our waivers are sort of tiered based on the needs, and an individual can move up in the waivers based on their increasing needs and their expanded need for supports. But the other thing that the DDS waivers also allow is, you receive annualized funding based on your needs. If there's underutilization, your annual budget can be adjusted and should be adjusted. We are looking at situations where there is underutilization, specifically around staffing needs. And we're having individualized conversations with families to really determine what is causing the underutilization. And like you mentioned, Mike and Lois, we are seeing the staffing challenges and COVID concerns being sort of the two main reasons for some of the underutilization that we're seeing happening more often now than was happening prior. I also just wanted to mention very quickly, Amy and I have touched base a few times on some of the waiver structure within DDS. So I know that really DSS is looking at options. It is not a quick change to implement, especially looking at creating new waivers or changing waiver structures. So it is something that's going to take some time, some thought, and lots of real detailed discussion. But I know that DSS is beginning that process. So thank you.
I just had a question, just because I'm not really all that familiar as a parent. I'm not in the state agencies. So if we are Mike, if we're submitting a renewal of the waiver now, and Carol and Yana and Lois, they've all brought up these great ideas for underutilization, different tiers, looking at what DDS is doing. we're posting the waiver renewal now. What would our options be? Is it an amendment? Is it a next session? Like, I'm just curious.
Part of it, the notice of intent to renew will be open for public comment. Some of the changes we're discussing would take amendments to the waiver. Some of the discussions may need state statute changes depending on how things are written, and some may just be internal things that we can do. And working with OPM and how to structure the money and where it goes and what the allocation is per person versus how much stays with the person or how much can be shifted to someone else. I think a lot of that can be done internally. So I'm not sure which specific parts would have to go through where. There is the possibility of doing amendments even after this waiver is approved, but it is quite a process.
Okay, thank you. I don't know where we go from here, but I don't know. I'd like to stay close to this, or I don't know if anyone else has any other comments and just taking a look at this and going forward, if we have any other ideas that we want to look to put forth or in terms of an amendment or legislation or budget. I don't know if it's a priority for this group.
The best I can say
sorry, I keep saying this, but maybe it's time to have a peer advocate position within the autism division. Like, what I work for DDS as a self-advocate coordinator. We have those positions at DDS, and I think we should have a similar position within the waiver. There's a peer advocate that help individuals get service access resources, to help them with self-advocacy, because we don't have that right now, and I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't know if it begins with actually looking at that utilization that Carol had brought up, and see where we are right before we go off looking to make any sort of changes or review. I don't know where all that data sits. But I think it's important that we take a look at it going forward, because this is going to keep on coming up with a 10-year wait.
And plus, the DDS, one of the things we do that I love is that we employ our individuals in the DDS offices. Like in the East Hartford office, Krista, you know the copy center guys. They're all individuals who were supported by the department, actually working in the department in the coffee center. I'd like to see something similar within the autism division. Maybe have some positions for people on the waiver, including a peer mentor position, maybe some administrative assistant, office assistant type positions. Because it would be nice. Employment is still a big problem within our population, and it would be nice to have our folks working within the division. I know that like we can't be case managers or look at any privileged paperwork because we're people receiving services, so that would be a HIPAA violation. But the other, maybe office assistant, maybe in the coffee center, there's got to be something.
Well, and that's where I have suggested and been sending things out to a lot of my caseload and all the other individuals on the waiver. With 6,700 state employees retiring, you're seeing positions that you haven't seen in years open up, and that would really be helpful for a lot of our people, where it is copy room positions, mail room positions, stock clerk, storeroom positions, things like that, and a lot of administrative assistant and secretary positions that are opening up. Several of my people were looking at, they had IT trainee positions. So it's a great time for our people, if they want to be employed, to get employed.
I just wanted to go back to Jim's point. We did have a meeting, I don't know, this was probably 6 months ago. People talked about renewing the waiver, and there was a meeting talking about the waiver. And then I think Amy solicited recommendations from people at that time. So I'm not sure what happened to those recommendations, or Mike, if any of those recommendations made it into what we're asking for at this point.
We put together all of the recommendations and things that everybody had needed. They met with OPM, and OPM edited what we were doing and what the budget could afford based on the numbers they were using, and these were the only changes we were allowed to make. Things like we were putting in for housing, for group supported employment, things like that, we're not able to make the budgetary cut.
I think it's a having
Hi,
a way.
can I just say, maybe we'll talk offline, Mike. We talked about housing. That's a whole different area. We were told by Amy we couldn't put it into this waiver. So that wasn't a budget issue. That was more of a policy issue. I think we're just not sure how to work it into the waiver and if it's allowed. And maybe we can talk to Krista offline also on how to move forward with that. So unfortunately, right, there was another thing that was budget related because we didn't have the funds to cover it.
Well, and some of it is, and I'm not sure the numbers that were used, and I know you were looking at the 2020 utilization numbers for the budgeting. And I'm sorry, I misspoke. It wasn't housing, it was the 24-hour call support. So that
it was some kind of an employment support, correct?
No. But as far as the other it wasn't housing that we had promoted. It was the 24-hour on-call support for people that were to live on their own. They would require that. That was it. So it wasn't housing per se.
I think in the future, what would be helpful is if we got feedback, and the recommendations went in, but then if we got feedback saying, this is not possible for this reason, or this is not possible for that reason. And then going forward, as Jim is saying, is to, if we have ideas here, who do we get them to and how do we get them to the table?
Well, so I think this is the first time that DSS has ever asked for feedback from this body around a renewal of a waiver, right? So that's step one, right? This body did give some recommendations. DSS did put those recommendations forward. And then from there, it goes to a higher body, which is OPM. OPM has to look at all of the financials aspects of it, right? They discuss it with DSS, and then they decide what they can incorporate and what they can't. And then fast forward, here we are today, because the renewal is going to be posted, and Mike has given us an update. So I think, Jim, to your point, everything that you mentioned has been done.
I know, but I guess, but as Jim is saying, we all kind of feeling like, gee, we have all these great ideas, but they're not going anywhere. And what I'm trying to say is, yes, I'm saying they did go somewhere, but we never heard back as to whether they were even listened to or acted on.
Well,
so that's where I'm just saying that kind of feedback would be helpful.
But you did hear Jim. He just gave you a presentation on it.
No, all we heard today was here's what was approved, but there was no sense of these were not possible for this reason, or this was not possible for that reason, or here's a priority going forward, or any kind of a response to the feedback that we gave.
Well, you're not going to get that level of detail, from the agency, right? The agency has fiscal responsibilities. They also have to be in compliance with CMS. So, I mean, at the end of the day, right, Mike has told you what's going to be implemented and what isn't going to be implemented. I mean, I'm not sure to what higher level of information you're looking for from there, because it's not going to change the outcome. Right? If OPM is saying that financially we can't do the housing, or we're working still with CMS around the housing because it isn't incorporated in this waiver, I mean, that is what it is.
No, I appreciate Mike's presentation today.
And there is availability for public comment on the notice of intent to renew, so people can voice their concerns there as well.
So Lisa, can we ask you, when this is posted, that you send a notice to this body letting everybody know that the renewal has been posted so that people have the opportunity to take a look at it?
That'd be great.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Just doing a time check. Okay, housing subcommittee discussion. I've been attending I've been invited rather to attend some innovative services work group. This is for the use of ARPA funds, and as a Autism Committee co-chair, I was invited to attend some of these work group discussions. Right now, it's mostly focused on, I've actually only been able to attend a couple of meetings. They've met 4 times. Right now, the focus has been on a lot of the safety net type of services for folks that, have needs beyond just the daytime services that they're receiving. We really haven't gotten to any sort of housing. I know that ARPA funds, will play a role in some of addressing some of that, but right now we just haven't, it hasn't come up for discussion yet. That's kind of my brief pithy update on the innovative services work group. Additionally, I've reached out to a few different organizations to really understand what sort of housing models are out there for individuals with autism. I did send out a call report for the conversation I had with the executive director at CASS Housing, CASS, that's in Fort Wayne, Indiana. If anyone needs that, I can recirculate that. That call happened in May. And she was very open about the just the methodology of how they went about finding land and choosing that, and the funds needed to raise, the different community architects and builders. I will say that they have open units, but unfortunately they haven't been able to get them all occupied because there are certain restrictions. During COVID, they weren't able to fill a lot of those homes. So we have seen that, just like in Connecticut, we do see, opportunity, but because of COVID, we haven't been able to, they haven't been able to get folks placed. They do something interesting, which is a buddy system. So folks are included in a social work group, and after a period of time, they establish a buddy. And then that buddy eventually becomes their roommate as they are occupying these houses. So it was pretty cool. If you haven't received my call sheet, we can get that circulated again. I did also have a conversation, which I haven't sent out that call report yet, with the Cape Cod Village. This was one that I had. I think it was Amy that had suggested I give them a call. 2 parents of a child with autism. And, he was approaching, I think, 16, 18, and they saw the crisis. They saw it looming. And it's been a 10-year process for them, between galas and fundraisers and working through Massachusetts legislation and hitting speed bumps and obstacles and hurdles. I can do that right up to, but it's they picked up land that was close to a trailway and little boutique shops. They knew that employment, as well as social opportunities and transportation were key factors in choosing the space that they wanted to build upon. So I have those notes forthcoming. I can put those together. Hopefully before the September meeting. But I know that the group has, we've heard it loud and clear. We have folks that are aging, individuals with autism that are aging. We are at that crisis. We are at that cliff. And as we don't want to reinvent the wheel, I think it is important that we do look around the country to see what other models have been, are operating and how they're funded. I do want to say that they are in different states. So obviously there's different legislation and as it relates to state services, but there is also federal dollars tied to some of this as it relates to the individuals receiving services. So I put that forth. I don't know where it goes from there. I've in terms of how this group will interpret or take action on some of these conversations I'm having, but I did want to put it into the room, and I hope that it'll spur some conversation and we can look at, someone can help me interpret, what it means that certain waivers were used certain services had to be tied to individuals that wanted to participate in these housing programs and so forth. So I'll pause here on my brief little update. I think it's Krista or Kristen. I'm sorry, I don't know your first name.
Okay, Krista.
Krista, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I wanted to just take this opportunity to mention some quick forums that DDS has coming up all around housing. And Yana, I see your hand up also, so I wonder if you were going to talk on the same thing. So if
yeah,
you
I got the email from, but it said DDS supported individuals, which don't,
Yes,
our
so
individuals get left out, and it's really frustrating.
Well,
there's the
so-
IDAS housing, our individuals keep getting left out, and it's frustrating because we matter too.
So Yana, I think, you know, the intent, so my understanding is that this is going to be a series of forums all about different housing options that have been offered that are available to individuals on our DDS waivers. So yes, it is specific to individuals on the DDS waiver, but there are public forums, families, individuals, providers, staff, anyone can participate and listen to the presentations. I'm assuming we're also going to post the presentations upon completion on the website. I think the forums in general could spur some really interesting dialogue and conversations about housing options that are available in general. So the first forum is going to be on the 26th. It's going to be on supportive housing. So essentially individuals that live independently but receive some wraparound services. There's going to be a presentation by a DDS staff person about a provider that assists with some of those settings. And then there's also going to be a virtual tour of an apartment for someone that lives in a supportive housing structure. Again, the focus really is DDS waiver individuals. So Yana, you are correct. But
I don't know why our individuals get left out all the time. We got left out with IDASH, even though we were supposed to be a part of IDASH, and it's not fair. We matter too.
Yeah,
We don't have
my
intellectual
understanding is that
disability.
IDASH was open to individuals with on the autism spectrum. I'm not sure what exactly happened there, but my understanding was IDASH was open there as well. So I just wanted to, I have a flyer hot off the presses on those virtual presentations. I'm happy to share with the council. Again, from the council's perspective, it just might be an opportunity to look at different options that can be explored, but the focus will be on individuals active on the DDS waivers.
Krista, what office are you out of?
I'm in central office.
Oh, I'm in East Hartford.
Close, we're close.
Yana, did you have any other comment, Yana?
Yep,
Otherwise, I'll move to Mike.
I found another housing option, another housing format I really like. It's out of the Nordic countries, Finland, Norway, and those countries. I can share the article with you, but I think for our individuals, this would be perfect because we don't need a lot of like support with ADLs, but we do need more of a social support network. And this is called shared living, where everyone has their own apartment and their own space, but they share things like the kitchen. They share meals with one another. They share tools. They would share cars. It's a community, a social support.
So are those services being offered in social settings being offered though by the government?
It's not by the government, it's through it. Shared living is an arrangement where people share and come together on certain aspects of everyday home life. In most cases, this involves a shared living room, kitchen, and bathroom. With larger shared living communities, residents might have separate homes and come together over maintenance of the shared outdoor spaces or enjoy dinner together once a week in the common house. And this is the theory of intentional co-living grew in Denmark in the 1960s. And yeah, it's not government sponsored, but I think this model would be great for our folks. It's a lot of social support, which our people tend to get isolated a lot. And in this way, they have a community built in.
So I wonder if, though we want to be mindful if we don't trip any wires, though, if in this on the state side in the United States, you are receiving services, we don't want to trip any wires that may you may be ineligible. So yeah, send that article, and then if you're gonna be
Well, this would be mixed communities. This would be community with people with and without disabilities. Like, it would
okay.
be somebody like myself with a disability, maybe somebody like your family living there.
Yeah,
Sharing, you would have your own home, but we would share dinner once. The whole community would have dinner together once a week, and look at look in the old days when everybody knew everybody's name and everybody checked in on everybody, and people still cared about one another. People.
I did speak with a woman. She's in Massachusetts. Andrew, you remembered her name. It was Kathy Olson, maybe? But she also had presented, she's a consultant for individuals with autism and disabilities, and she consults on these housing projects that I've been mentioning. And I think that was that model where they do co-living with a family. We have seen that in the United States. Yana, please send me the article on the Nordic housing, and then
Exactly. It's
I
a
would,
win-win.
yeah.
It's a win-win for the family.
Oh,
because
yeah.
the kids would get to be exposed to people with disabilities, and instead of being the autistic person, it would just be Andrew or Yana or Allie, and they would have a built-in, and the individual would have a built-in family.
Exactly. Can you send me that article? And then I would say, Krista, if you have the flyer for the public forum on the 26th, definitely, Yana, I would see if you could try and attend that. Because it sounds like you would have some great ideas too, and we can listen and maybe hear what they're doing.
My mom has been wanting to do something about housing, so if you're gonna have a committee, I can ask her if she wants to be involved, because she's been wanting me to have more support, more social support. She was saying, why not have in a community like where I live in my building, why not have 1 or 2 or 3 of us in the same building so we can support one another.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would, if she can attend the forum too, the public forum too. Maybe the two of you can talk about it and listen to what Krista's Chris, I don't know if you're presenting. I don't want to speak for you, but if you could circulate that flyer, I think you got a lot of interest here in this group.
Yeah, exactly. And Yana, just to your point too, I think some of what you're articulating in terms of the housing in the Nordic countries, we have some residential structures that seem similar. I'm thinking about like CCH or community companion homes.
But it's not a CCH in that the person doesn't live with the family.
Okay. All right.
They live on their own, but they're just partnered with the family.
Right. There needs to be an opportunity to look at all those creative housing options and see what can be available, because, one housing option isn't going to be a perfect fit for everyone. So all of those options need to be reviewed and discussed. And I think some of the DDS housing options could, spark some of that creative thinking about different options that may or may not be available. And Yana, I think you just mentioned assistive technology. That is one thing.
There's so much out of it. We could be saving so much money instead of having a person coming to somebody's house to have these smart homes. I was looking with DDS, they were showing us all the technology they have in these new apartments, and it's amazing. And how much more independent people can be.
And it enhances and it grows options for people too, right? So if you can have a mix of of assistive technology and direct support staff, you have the ability to become more independent, feel more independent, and your options in terms of housing grows as well, right? Because then you don't need 24-hour staff coming into the house. So there's just so much available and so much out there. Really, the first step is really trying to learn and absorb it all. So
there's one thing that I think would be wonderful for our individuals is the on-call support. Instead of having a person physically come into the home. At DDS, they showed us a video about it, but it's basically we're contract with an agency that provides the on-call support, and they don't even have to be in the state, but the individual, if they needed support, they could call within a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
I needed to know how to cook, and I needed to know how to use certain appliances. I needed support. I can call and get the support remotely.
I think you're talking about our remote support service.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is so timely. So that is a service on the DDS waivers, and we are in the process of rolling it out actually the beginning of August. And it is pretty much exactly what Yana just articulated, right? It allows for there to be live two-way communication. So a person is able to connect with a support staff virtually to help with queuing, prompting, cooking, and then if there's an emergency or if there is a need for a support staff to be provided in person, that virtual support partner is what we're calling that component, would then connect with the person who is supposed to be providing the live in-person support at that time, and that could be provided. So, but it's really live two-way communication that is there to assist an individual with any sort of support needs that may not necessarily need to be done in person. So that hopefully will be rolling out the beginning of August, and we're actually just updating our website today. So it's so relevant, Yana, what you're saying. We're actually updating our website today to talk more about remote supports and what that's going to look like in the coming future. So
I just wanted to remind the council, and I can't stress this enough, that just because I don't have an intellectual disability and our folks don't have intellectual disability, we have quote unquote high functioning autism. I hate functioning labels, by the way. I wish we would get rid of them. Doesn't mean it's easy autism. I still have a lot of challenges. And I wish people didn't think that automatically say, oh, she's high functioning. It's easy. She doesn't need support. Because I still need some supports. I have mental health issues. So it's not easy autism by any means.
A really good reminder. I do need to do a time check, and I see a couple of hands up still. Krista, I don't know if it makes sense that maybe we ask you for the September meeting, if you might want to give an update on just the August rollout and spend maybe 10 minutes if there's anything to share, because I think I think that there's a lot of interest here. Mike, did you want to make a comment before we move to new business?
Yeah, I had a couple things. First, I share Yana's frustration personally and professionally. As far as the iDash program, we did have one individual that was able to take advantage of one of the slots. A lot of them were in areas that we had nobody that wanted to move. But having that on-call support and not being an option for our individuals is what really prevented them from taking advantage of a lot of these things that are out there. The assistive technology is a wonderful thing, except that if there's nobody there to answer the call, what do you do? We have agencies that do provide that support. We have families that are private paying for it for the ones that couldn't afford it. But that's the biggest hurdle for most of our people to be able to live independently, is that on-call support. Because like Yana said, everybody assumes they're high functioning, everything works. Our guys do great when everything works. But I don't know about you, I've never had a day where everything worked. And it's when something doesn't work is where things happen, or there's no power, no heat, no this, it's all of those things. And having that on-call support is huge for a lot of our people. And unfortunately, if something were to happen to the supports they have now, they're going to end up in some type of nursing home setting or residential care home, which is far more restrictive and far more expensive. So hopefully we can get that added in at some point.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. We do just have 20 minutes left for open business, or new business rather. I don't know if folks are going to start dropping. So I do want to.
I have some. Oh, sorry, it shouldn't be interrupted.
Go ahead.
Sorry, it's something that I'm working on, interrupting thing. But I want to remind folks that the suicide hotline recently switched to a 3-digit number, 988. Because that's something we need to promote among our folks, because we do have people on the waiver who have mental health issues on top of their autism. And it's an easy to remember number. It's 988. And then here in Connecticut, it's 211. And they are looking for volunteers. The suicide hotline is looking for volunteers. So if you know anybody with autism experience who needs a volunteer gig, who has experience with mental health, they're looking for volunteers to work on the hotline. I think we definitely need at least some people working on those hotlines that have experience working with our individuals. So if anybody is looking for volunteer work or do something fun pro bono, reach out to them. But yeah, we should be promoting it. It's an easy to 3-digit number, 988, for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline.
I think that's a great segue. Kathy, did you want to make a comment?
Sure. So going forward, just some things to think about. First of all, any recommendations or suggestions for the September meeting? As of right now, we're looking at, I think that we should have Beacon as a standing agenda item. And I believe that we should also have a waiver update as an agenda item, especially because we want to know if the waiver has been approved or not approved and where we are with that. We also want to keep our eye on the wait list. I think, no offense to the agencies that are on here, but I think this body needs to keep the pressure on them. And by us keeping the pressure on them, they can keep the pressure on OPM to get these positions filled. So that's two areas I think that we should continue to have on the agenda. I think we should be able to have the conversation about the physician that will be coming on board, because we're going to have the nominating committee. It's going to meet before that. We will bring that suggestion forward, that recommendation. We will probably have a recommendation on others that no longer want to be part of this body. We're going to take a look at the attendance, and we will send out a letter to them, an email to them, asking them if they want to continue. We may actually have some new members by then, depending on what the response is from the members who are no longer interested in being on this. The other thing I want you to think about is next year is a long session, which means it's the first part of the budget, which is where all the dollars are allocated. So this body should start to think about any legislative initiatives that they would like to put forward for next session. And this can be even farther than just taking people off the wait list. You know, you may have some suggestions with some different thoughts about, say, for example, if DSS and OPM come up with a smaller waiver, you know, you might have some thoughts about that. We'll be able to keep you informed of that. We'll also keep you up to date as to what's going on with the data collection and what the new platform will look like from Beacon and from DSS. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for this body to have input going forward. But legislatively, you know, any thoughts for any changes there, you should really have some thoughts by September, because I can still, well, I'm not actually sure how this works, but I can make sure that the proposals are given to the right people so that they can submit them for bills come January. Because normally I would submit my bills in December, but since I won't be here in January, I'm going to have to make sure my colleagues get copies of those so that they can put them forward. I don't have the ability to do that. So with that, let me open it up to the floor to ask on any other subject matters you would like to add to the agenda for the September meeting. And I see Marcia had her hand up first.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to really pursue what you just said in terms of using the kind of credibility and authority of this group to press for agenda items. And one thought I had is that it could discussing that be an item on the next agenda. And perhaps if people, I mean, you certainly are very familiar with the kinds of things that can be legislative items, and maybe other people, I mean, Lois, you have a lot of experience. If we could kind of send in to maybe Lisa or someone ideas that could be circulated, so that in the next meeting, we might be able to talk about, you know, certain things, even a sort of a, just even if it's not a complete list, some things that we'd like to propose. And then maybe you could help us understand, is it best to just have one letter from all of us, or is it best to have one letter from all of us plus individual letters from all of us? You know, is there a sort of, you know, in some things, I know it's just the number of emails people get as well as, who it's from. So I'd really like to see us be able to act very, proactively on this whole thing.
So is your suggestion that we would add a agenda item that would say legislative agenda, and we would talk about one process, right? So that everybody understands what the process is. And then two, some of the recommendations. So are you saying that these members should send to Lisa some of their ideas of legislation they would like to put forward come January, and then we could, as a body, talk about it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking that if people who have ideas could send them in, and then that could be circulated.
Okay.
Because sometimes an idea gives you an idea.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. Does the rest of the group think that's a great agenda item to add? I see a lot of nods. If people could put their screens on, it would be easier to kind of see everybody so that you can nod. And you really should be on camera because we are on YouTube. So the public is watching this.
I'm in the middle of a medical treatment, Kathy. I'm not going to do that.
That's
Sorry.
okay.
But
That's
we can do a thumbs up like that. Everybody comes up.
Okay.
On Zoom, which is nice.
Okay.
Yes,
so
that's
we will do a legislative agenda. And if anybody has any thoughts, please send them to Lisa, and we will make sure they're circulated before the meeting. Are there any other agenda items that you would like to add to the September meeting? I see Jim shaking his hand.
Yeah.
He hasn't found
Thank
that
you,
raised
Kathy.
hand yet.
No, I have not. Thank you, Kathy. My question is about the funding for the center. That I think at the last Amy had said we went to contracting, and it was being reviewed or whatever.
Yep.
Do we have an update on that?
I don't know.
That was
if
my question as well. We were promised an update on the Center of Excellence because they had taken some applications, and Amy said she was going to get us an update this month.
Mike Olson, did Amy leave you any information on that?
Sorry, no, she did not.
And how about Shelley from OPM? Do you have anything that you could add to that?
I did ask Amy about it the other day, and I was only told that it's still with contracts at DSS, and I haven't been able to get anything further.
So what we'll do is we will add that to an agenda item for September. I will send Amy. Amy is on vacation this week also, I think. So I will send her a quick email and just ask her to be able to either herself or whomever she has coming to the September meeting from DSS to give us an update on the Center of Excellence funding. Is that correct?
Thank you, Kathy.
Sure. Any other agenda items, folks?
I had asked Krista if she wanted to give us a couple sentences on her August launch of the remote system supports. Did I get that right?
Yeah, the remote support service. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I can even see if we can bring in some of the staff that are specifically working on the launch, just to give a really brief presentation on sort of where we are. We've been doing a few pilots. We can probably provide an update in September about that as well. So happy to be a part of the conversation for a September meeting.
Yeah, we're going to have a packed agenda. So,
Yeah.
So even if you need to circulate anything in advance or do a handout or some slides, I think that would suffice.
Krista, quick question for you. So the working group that Gemma is on that has to do, from what I've seen, has to do with long-term care. But if you look at the bottom of one of the slides she sent me, there is a portion that has to do with DDS. Are you aware of that working group, and are you part of it?
So I am not a part of it, but that doesn't mean that DDS is not actively participating. I'd like to be able to take a quick look at the slide, and I'll probably be able to determine very quickly who is actively participating in that discussion. I have to say there are a lot of different sort of committees and discussions happening around housing and components of housing right now. So I just want to make sure that I'm referencing the correct staff person and the correct participation. So.
Yeah, and I think this particular work group, from what I've seen, from what Gemma has sent me, and I haven't had a chance to talk to DSS yet, it looks more like it has to do with emergency services. and making sure that there is a system in place for individuals. So I'm still doing, my homework on my end, but I just thought because of, your experience with DDS, you might have a little bit more information. I was hoping that Shannon was going to be on here also, because I have a feeling that she might be the liaison from DDS that's on that particular work group.
It is very possible that Shannon is representing DDS on that work group. I am not familiar on a work group specifically focusing on emergency housing options, but I have a few staff in mind that may be actively participating. So I'm happy to look into it.
It's not housing. It's not housing.
Oh.
This work group is not housing. This work group is about emergency services, and it's using ARPA dollars. So I apologize if I gave you the impression that had to do with housing. It's not housing, but it's kind of confusing. The membership of this group are really long-term care individuals. So that's why I'm trying to figure out the DDS component. So I will send you what Gemma has sent me, and it might make more sense to you. So thank you for that. And I apologize for the confusion.
Not a problem at all. I'm happy to help put the puzzle pieces together if I can.
Thank you, Krista. Mike, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to very quickly, several times it's been mentioned things being sent to Lisa or Lisa sending out things. My understanding is that this is Lisa's last meeting with the committee, so I don't know who's over that.
No, that's not true. No. Lisa will be, I already talked to Bill Halsey and Guy about this. She will be continuing as our administrator. There are some things we have to work out, but this is not, when we changed the role of the co-chairs, we did not change this to a legislative branch body. This is still the executive branch body because the governor does still have the appointments that are part of this body. So DSS is still responsible to be the administrator for us on this group. So I've already talked to Bill Halsey about this, and he has agreed that she is staying with us.
Okay, I'm sorry, I wasn't made up to date on that. That was
not a problem. Not a problem. There's a lot of moving pieces, and with the shortage over at DSS, I'm sure things get lost in transition. So not a problem at all.
I just want to make it clear. I'll talk to Amy about it because I received an email that I was to stop duties immediately. So I'm happy to help with the, the interim, but that's just what I was told. So I don't know. I haven't heard anything else.
Yeah, well, Lisa, we'll work it out. We'll work it out offline, but we've already had our attorneys talking to your attorneys, the legislative to the executive branch. So just so you know. Legally, yes, you guys are still responsible to be administrators for this, but we'll work this offline. But I did get commitment from Bill that you would be the administrator through the end of the year. So that part is definitely still in play. But we don't have to do that on this. We can talk about that offline.
Okay, we have 6 minutes left, 5 minutes left.
Anybody want to open the floor to anything that we didn't talk about?
Well, I have 4 pages of notes, so I think we've had some great discussions. I appreciate everybody trying to use their raised hands, and Jim will get you a tutorial for next time, okay?
So for the next meeting, Lisa we will still be doing it by Zoom. Hopefully, this worked well for everybody. Our next meeting is going to be September 21st. And we will try and get material out in advance. And again, if anybody thinks of anything they want on the agenda, please feel free to send it to Yana, Gemma, or myself, and we would be more than happy to take a look at it and see if we can add it to the September meeting. Yana?
I was wondering, would it be possible for myself or Andrew Comer or both of us to go down to the LOB and actually meet some of the legislators, and so when they do this funding, the voting for the funding, they have faces they can put to our names. Because I know the individuals at DDS, they go down there to the Capitol and they speak to the legislators, and the legislators know them, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah,
So I know you and Representative Gilchrist, but that's only two.
So Yana, we're a part-time legislature, so we're not in the LOB right now. We are out of session. We gavelled out May 5th. So any meetings that are going on are only going on by Zoom. So legislators are not in their offices. The best way to get in contact with them would be after November, after the election, because we don't know who's going to be here and who's not going to be here. And then they do not take office until January when they get sworn in. You know, you gotta kind of wait until January to find out who the elected officials are gonna be. And then once they start to propose the budget, that's the time for you to go and testify before the committees and let them know your opinion on the budgeted items for the different agencies.
Yeah, I would love to do that. And hey, maybe you can train me or Andrew. You could train us. Maybe one of us can run for state
Absolutely.
House of Representatives. I don't know if
Absolutely.
me. I don't know if me and my big mouth and my big personality.
You'd be fine, honey. You'd be wonderful. You'd be wonderful. So I'd like to thank my co-chairs, especially Gemma, for taking on this chairing this meeting. Her and I actually had a great time talking a few times in the last couple of weeks. And I hope that everybody's happy with the structure of this council and the direction we're moving in. We really want to make this council successful and to continue to move forward. I know that there's been some individuals not as thrilled with this council, but I think that we're getting back on track, and I think that our focus is moving in the right direction. So with that, I'll turn it over to my co-chair Gemma, who will close us out, and thank everybody and have a great day.
Okay, this sounds like I'm supposed to do something official. I just wanted to thank everybody. Is the meeting adjourned? Is that what I have to ask everybody? Okay.
Yeah, and we will send out the invite for the subcommittee for the position of the doctors.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
Thanks, guys.
Jem, I sent you the email about the housing option, the Nordic one.
Oh, good. Thank you.